Hi, I'm Johnny Engineer Turmel, and today we're going to watch parts of Isaac Isitan's video called Money, which dealt with the crash of the Argentine banking system in 2001 and the development of the 7 million strong barter networks they used to save themselves. And of course that's happening now in Greece, and we'll see it happening more around the planet. So, Isaac Isitan's video, Money, and I'd like to say it was originally done in French and translated from Turkey and Argentina, two countries he visited to compare. And before a film festival in English, I did the translation of the whole text from French into English, so every word up there was selected by me. So, Isaac Isitan's video, Money. A nice class of broke people.
¡Hijos de puta! ¡Ladrones! ¡Devuelvan los ahorros, hijos de puta! ¡Ladrones! 42 años metido adentro y me quedé sin nada! ¡Hijo de...
From my peaceful middle-class living room in a rich country, I bear witness to the collapse of a country. Argentina is in deep financial crisis. The government, the banks are running out of money. On another continent, thousands of kilometers away, another country faces the same crisis, with the same scenes of desperation. In a bank in Turkey, a woman tries to burn herself to death. In my peaceful middle-class living room, in a country that remains rich, I ask myself, how does money run out? How can countries as rich as Turkey and Argentina find themselves on the brink of bankruptcy? In order to understand, I set out to investigate. Little did I know that I would discover the hidden side of money.
So the next few minutes are basically detailing the next, 9 minutes detail all the miseries of the two countries who are deep in debt and the people can't pay their debts, and talk of suicide and stuff like that. Real depressing stuff. So we're going to zoom ahead now to Argentina. Protesting.
So the repayment of the external debt engenders a systematic impoverishment of the country.
Los chicos que vienen a esta escuela la mayoría son chicos de la zona.
Children who attend this school live in the area. It's the poor neighborhood of Quilmes. It's hard to do good work when the teachers are badly paid, when the children have nothing to eat, and the parents don't have a job. I brought these balls. I buy what I can. We no longer get supplies here. Teachers have no chalk to use in the classrooms, no paper, no pencils. Teachers often scrounge in their wallets to buy what they need to work with the children. The majority of children come to school without having eaten. The majority. Some suffer nausea until they've eaten. It's really awful. We can't get anything done before 2 p.m. because they keep asking for the meal. Are you hungry? Yeah. Do you have enough food at home? More or less. Do you get hungry? Yeah, but they help me at school. They eat at school, and that's it, once a day. Today there's pizza and milk, and also some mate. Each student gets one portion, 2 if there are leftovers. At the end of the day, anything remaining is given to the first graders. They take it home for their brothers and sisters. The people of Argentina are rich in resources and fertile lands. This is the principle, Beatriz. We have enough fresh water for the entire planet. You only have to travel 50 kilometers and you'll see cows. Fields of wheat, rice, potatoes. How can a country so rich that has never undergone a war like Afghanistan, that is not small like Ecuador, suffer from so much hunger? Just a few years ago, I wouldn't have imagined that we could live in such terrible social and economic conditions. Never. The children here have no future. First of all, there are no jobs. Their parents are in need. Because they lack food, they won't be able to develop well, intellectually or socially speaking. It's distressing. I may be young, but I see no future. That's the worst. It worries me a lot. The problem is so terrible in Argentina. People are dying of hunger right now. People who live in poor neighborhoods eat rats, frogs. The external debt is important. I suppose we have to find a way to pay it to preserve our international relations. But it shouldn't be at the price of hungry children. In Argentina, a child dies every 50 minutes due to lack of medical care or due to malnutrition. Everyone says that we have to pay the debt, but they'll end up paying it with our blood, because that's all we have left.
At the end of last year, the banks were already in crisis. Then a period of massive withdrawals started. People realized that the banks were on the verge of bankruptcy and rushed to empty their bank accounts.
Se daba cuenta que el banco se iba a caer, que el banco iba a quebrar, iba y sacaba el depósito. Entonces, el gobierno...
At this point, the Cavallo government decided to impose a corralito, a measure which prevented depositors from recovering their savings.
Okay, now that's what you saw the people protesting in advance, the corralito. That's when the banks shut down, you can't get your money no more.
Why did the government do this? To save the banks.
El problema que yo tuve es que yo vendí...
A country that used to feed itself.
On dit toujours le plus difficile, c'est de trouver de l'argent.
People say that it's hard to find money, but it's not. Humanity has lived hundreds of millions of years without money, and the evolutionary process did not stop. Money is mere convention. Money has no value in and of itself. Its only value is the exchange value between human beings who trust each other.
It's an IOU.
Quand votre...
When your banker lends you money, to buy a house for example, he doesn't take the money from somewhere else. Contrary to what most think, he is actually creating money out of nothing.
You got that? It doesn't work like a piggy bank where you're borrowing someone else's savings. It works like a casino bank where you're getting brand new chips created out of nothing, they say.
And what is backing this money? Only the anticipation of wealth.
Actually, what's backing any new loans that have come into circulation is your collateral. So, it's not inflationary if you're pledging collateral. They always forget the collateral as they complain about money created out of thin air.
Basically, private banks create money.
Yeah.
There are commercial banks for the public and business banks for industry. They get to decide when to manufacture money. That's an enormous power given to private entities. Money is the blood of the economy. It's the people's right to livelihoods. The fact that the very creation of money is monopolized by private entities means that people's lives are monopolized by private entities. Because tomorrow I can decide to put faith, let's say, into oil companies or companies that produce anti-personnel mines or whatever it may be. And these decisions are made by maybe 100 bankers in New York or 20 in France, maybe fewer, 10 people. It's a denial of democracy.
Ah, back in Argentina, good times. It's the only banknote that I have, but there are plenty more, he says. It's worth 20 credits. There's also some worth 10, 5, 2, and 1. It's not money, it's a credit, a little piece of paper. You can buy what you need, clothing, food. When you got no money for stores, what else are you going to do? How much is it? 2 credits, my dear. When they first come here, people sell their used goods, their clothing, their shoes, blenders, television, videotape recorders.
O videograbadoras o televisores, lo que tengan. Comienzan así, lo cambian por alimento. Muy bien, gracias. ¿Tiene bolsita? Bueno.
The Argentine economy collapsed. This is a parallel economy. We use credits because there aren't any pesos anymore. And when all these little parallel economies in different countries of survivors link up together, then it becomes the global economy, the global underground economy. The credit is like the peso, it's our work. Julio Archet,
simply
Global Barter
generated a tool of
Network.
exchange. You can call it money, but that wasn't our intention. We simply use it to represent the value of work. It's what we've always done. When I had a job, they paid me in money. And with this money, I could buy bread from the baker. I was bartering. I bartered my work for bread. I used money as a tool. Today, I do exactly the same. I work, and in exchange, they give me a ticket that's worth the value of my work. And with this ticket, I go to a bartering fair and buy the same bread. I exchange my work for bread. The only difference is the tool.
Poker chips. My job gives me pesos to pay my taxes, my rent, etc. With the credits I earn here, I can fill the fridge. I can even afford shoes and clothes. I buy things for my son, gym equipment, CDs, software. Yes, credits are like money. In the province of Buenos Aires, people even pay their electricity and their taxes with credits. That's not the case in another place. That's the holy grail, being able to pay your taxes with your credits, because then everybody will take it. Same with electricity. Everybody pays electricity, so everybody will take those chips if you can pay electricity with them. Credits are like money, except it's not a legal tender. It allows you to go to all the barter fairs in the network. anywhere in the country. It's an alternative to a crisis. We use credits because we have no money. For example, I'm paying for this manicure with the credits I got through selling my own merchandise.
Previously, we had the peso. When it disappeared, we asked ourselves, what can we do? And we invented a new currency. Simply put, we said, does this have a value? Do you trust the credit that I'm offering you? Do you agree that it's worth what I'm telling you it's worth? Do you give it credibility? If yes, okay, you'll accept it.
It's not only a job, we're like one big family. If you don't come in one day because you're sick, the others ask about you. And that's what all the Let's reports over the news for the last decades were always about. How people would say, I just love my community now that I have this support network of people I know who'll help me if I got no cash. It's nice, we don't feel alone. My husband works in construction. My son studies law, he's not working yet. She pays for his studies with what she earns here. I buy all that I need for my home. Food, clothing, household items. And with my husband's income, we pay for what must be paid in pesos.
We've had 1,000% growth rate in the last 3 or 4 months. Before the crash, we were 1.5 million, 2 million people. Today we're around 7 million users, and the money circulating in our bartering clubs is equivalent to several $billion.
Think about that. 7 million people not paying any interest to the banks to use the chips.
If we refer to an international currency like the dollar.
The Argentinians invented the credit out of economic need. But I also met people who invented a currency for political reasons.
Ithaca, New York.
In the United States, there is more than 500 communities using a local money. Ithaca is one of them.
You make community. We back Ithaca hours with our labor and our goodwill. That's really important to me. And Ithaca hours like turned my life around in a way because I could trade for skills that I can't like sell, you know, like psychic readings or something. So I got Ithaca hours and I was able to, when we didn't have any money, I was able to feed my kids using trading for Ithaca hours.
On regular money, it says in God we trust, or in the U.S. I'm not sure. In God we trust, I think, and we just want to. It's like advertising that no, it's Ithacans, it's the community that we trust in to back this money.
We can keep American dollars in the community, but we have far less control over where our American dollars go once we try to keep them in our community. This shows that we're truly supporting our local businesses and our local service providers because you cannot use this particular currency outside of our community.
Well, actually, you can. I'd take 5 Ithaca hours to put somebody up in Brantford. In '99, I traveled all over Europe, 11 countries, 39 nights out of 40. I paid with an IOU for a night back in Canada, worth 5 hours. So of course, someone from Ithaca wants to come and stay in Ottawa. He doesn't have to email me an IOU for 5 hours. I'll take 5 paper Ithaca hours. So of course, it's not only used in Ithaca. People in the neighborhood and the surroundings are going to use it too, if they know they can spend it when they go visit Ithaca.
2 quarter hours, which is $5, and 1 American dollar. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you.
By calling the currency an hour, an Ithaca hour, it connects the exchange and this mechanism of exchange that we're using back to time and ultimately back to the source of value, which is the people involved and what they're bringing to the exchange. So a local currency has all these sort of eye-opening benefits. It makes us think about where value comes from in exchange. It makes us think about dollars because, again, dollars are sort of this thoughtless, anonymous thing that we exchange. We don't think about where they come from, why are they valuable. But when you present someone with this new piece of paper called an Ithaca hour that has fancy colors on it and beautiful drawings, and we say, well, this is money, it makes people think, well, what is money?
That should be right. Okie doke.
Some people don't have access to dollars, and through other ways they have access to Ithaca hours, and that allows me to see people that maybe don't have dollars. And then I can use the Ithaca hours with other merchants and businessmen in my community. It works for people who, doctors like me, for two reasons. One, I get more patients. I would rather take a little less money than have an empty chair. And second of all, I would much rather see a child and help him prevent getting cavities than I would trying to fill the cavities.
Credit card and the Ithaca hours.
Okay.
If you come around here, I can show you the Ithaca hour bank.
Their bank.
We have an active board of directors who meets monthly
Looks like the bank at my poker game.
deal with issues of promotion and distribution of the currency. Right now, the board of directors has a whole stash of local currency printed, just like a central bank of any country would have a stash of currency printed and in reserves. And that currency is brought into circulation when a person calls in or fills out the form that says, I am able to do whatever task in exchange for local currency.
Ithaca Hours and the Alternatives Credit Union have had a relationship since the very beginning of Ithaca Hours, and we feel that by supporting Ithaca Hours, we also lend some credibility to the system.
Is it possible to use Ithaca hours to pay off part of my loan?
Yes, you can use 2 Ithaca Hours with every loan payment that you make. You can also use them for any fees that we charge.
Oh, great. Okay. Well, I'll
just list them as cash.
$20 per
Okay.
payment.
Cash
Not
side.
bad. Plus fees. That's because the cashiers can spend it in the market.
The closest we come to being a banking system is that we make loans. The organization also gives grants to community organizations, to other community organizations. So on that small scale, we do provide financing for local entrepreneurs. But it's not a banking system in the sense of being a financial intermediary. You know, we don't take in deposits and money from some segment of the population and lend it out to others. But we do create wealth.
Well, I've been in business here 8 years. So I was already, when the Ithaca money started, we also started with the Ithaca money at the same time. So I accepted both American dollars and Ithaca money at the same time. It was very precious for me to get a loan from the people at Ithaca Hours, because I've tried in other banks, and I didn't have to fill out lots of applications, and I haven't done my taxes in a few years, and they decided nobody will give me a loan. And these were the only people that would give me a loan.
If the U.S. dollar collapsed and disappeared, there would certainly be a lot of economic impact. But I think if local communities already have in place mechanisms for local exchange and information networks that allow them to find out who's selling things and who's a specialist in this kind of repair or this kind of medical care, if those local networks already exist, then we're not quite so vulnerable to the larger downturns that happen.
You get that? That's why were called economic lifeboats. Because if you have one set up in your neighborhood, if a big horrible wave of financial debt and poverty arrives, well, you got your own little lifeboat to keep you sustained. So get out there and set up your own lifeboats. The sooner the better. Argentina back. sorting their chips. Making packages of money for new members.
La figura del banco que nosotros tenemos es una empresa.
We commonly see the bank as a business that makes money with money.
Y la figura de banco que nosotros podríamos darle.
But in the Barter network, we see the bank as an entity that produces goods and services through the access to a tool called credit.
Una herramienta a la que le damos el nombre de crédito. Entonces, no es que vamos a hacer un sistema financiero, porque esa
But we aren't going to build a new financial system.
Sure you are.
Our credits are loaned without interest.
That's why.
Y vos me tenés que devolver 150, como nos dice.
We don't say like the IMF does, I'll lend you 100, but you must pay back 150. No, we lend 100 and we say, pay back 100 in goods, services, or skills that the network needs.
Son los que necesitamos para la red.
So you just have to lend everybody 500 chips and say, give it back in goods and services.
Thanks
to the credits they loaned us, we've created almost 50 jobs. Luis Ramirez. We only used 18,000 credits out of the 30,000 received, but we've generated 50,000. This network allows for control of our money through production, while supporting the community. So with the money made from producing this sweater, we were able to produce bread and pastries for the school cafeterias. In this way, we exercise solidarity, which forms the basis of the cooperative.
Estos los elaboraron las chicas el
The women
domingo
prepared the cakes on Sunday. After icing them, we'll bring them to the
que
school.
también lo elaboramos acá y lo vamos a llevar a un comedor después. Hay harina, hay aceite,
We
hay
get
huevos,
flour,
hay grasa.
eggs, and oil from bartering,
Trocamos eso, intercambiamos por otra cosa o lo pagamos
or we
con los
use
créditos.
credits to buy things to make food for the kids.
Yo tomo todo eso y pues puedo elaborar para los chicos.
O todos juntos, o ninguno.
It means everyone all together or no one at all. Otherwise, we'll live in a system where a handful of people decide for the entire world. These people are fine, supposedly, because they have all they need, even in excess. They've stolen our dreams and dispossessed us of our means. We said, they're ignoring us? Okay, we'll ignore them. If they don't give us the money we need, we'll create our own.
My first political poem, why represent our collateral with their chips for a fee when we can represent our collateral with our chips for free? Must be fun bringing food to a school full of hungry kids, eh?
My journey is coming to an end, and I am now deeply convinced that the control of money is a prerequisite for democracy. It is perhaps even more important than the right to vote.
We see happier faces in the neighborhood. The children are guaranteed a plate every day.
Local currencies develop regional self-sufficiency, which is the basis for a healthy national economy and for sovereignty. Shouldn't local currencies become a model for national currencies?
Shouldn't local lets become a model for Canada lets and maybe uni lets? Back to Turkey, who don't have a problem solved.
Türkiye, Rusya gibi ülkelerle, İran.
Countries like Turkey, Russia, Iran, Iraq, the Asian countries, the Middle East and Africa could begin to trade in their national currencies.
Oh, well, that's exactly what Brazil, Russia, India, China, BRIC have done. Half the world are now trading their own currencies and not using the American dollar.
Or even begin to barter.
Or even begin to barter. That's going to be the big machine.
Termler benimsenebilir.
They could thus abolish or at least curb the use of the dollar and the euro. And this would bring about justice in the world.
There are over 3,000 various local currencies around the world, including Canada, and I got a list of them at my site, johnturmel.com/uralsnat.htm. URLSNAT.htm. Not too updated, but it's big. Now notice, Rogers, Quebec government, Canadian government, all sponsored and finance this video, which is the reason why we could never see it on the internet before, until just recently. For years and years, the only way you could get it was by buying it, because he couldn't issue it. So anyway, that's the disadvantage of having governments fund you, is that you can't then pass it out. Great video, about that. Argentina and the desperation of the hungry kids, and next thing you know, the happy kids. All right.
In a working-class suburb of Buenos Aires, hundreds of people newly impoverished by the nation's economic crisis gather several times a week at this disused factory to take part in their own self-help solution to the disaster. This is a barter market, one of thousands which have sprung up throughout Argentina to fill some of the gaps left by the collapse of mainstream business. Here, trading is carried out using coupons called Creditos, which can only be used inside the club. The country's national currency, the peso, plays no part in here at all. The network of barter markets has become a parallel economy. Barter Club coordinator Ruben Ravera says, today, 6 years after the first club was founded, there are 1,400 of these markets linked through a powerful network with more than 150,000 members, which gives us a total number of people who you could say are affected by this type of exchange outside the formal economy of something over 500,000.
Okay, so in 2001, he says there's about 150,000 actual members. Then a couple of years later, Julio Archet said that there was 2 million to 7 million. So that really grew fast. And what else are you going to do? It's either sit there, use the new kind of money, or don't use any money at all.
De algo más de medio millón de personas.
It's not only homemade clothing and other such goods that are traded in the barter clubs. People exchange food they've produced themselves, and even services such as hairdressing, doctors, dentists and psychiatrists. Barter clubs don't pay any tax, but they're tolerated and even encouraged by the government because they act as a safety valve for the volcano of social discontent that's...
Same reason why time banks aren't taxed in the United States. Because they were going to. Say if a little old lady cuts a young man's hair and he mows her lawn and they should have charged each other $10, they're going to lose it off their checks. And the IRS decided that to relieve the pressure on governments by these people doing it themselves, they're not going to bug the governments to do it. They're going to make those transactions non-taxable, just like in Argentina.
Boiling up because of mass unemployment. These women said the barter club is the only way they can feed and clothe their children. We haven't got money to work in a traditional market, so we come here out of necessity. I sew and do crochet and sell what I make, and the barter club helps me save money for things like paying my household bills.
Frees up cash.
This has become a way of life for us. The economic crisis is affecting all of us, and this is a way of earning our daily bread with dignity. Everybody in Argentina is bartering now because there simply isn't any work, and the advantage is that you can buy everything.
You could buy
With the country's official currency, the peso, collapsing, the use of barter has now spread into the mainstream economy. Wholesale vegetable markets have begun accepting creditos for produce, which is then traded in barter markets. A wide variety of businesses, including law firms, insurance companies and psychologists, have begun accepting creditos as payment. People advertise in newspapers to barter bigger items such as washing machines, cars and even apartments. One plumber was actually given an apartment in exchange for installing all the pipework in a new building. But the true heart of the barter philosophy is to be found in these crowded markets.
Mucha gente viene del desempleo crónico.
Ruben Rivera says a lot of people come from chronic unemployment or sometimes from the absolute impossibility of ever having access to work. And starting from these modest tables where they put themselves at the service of other people through a product or a service, these people gain fortitude which enables them to hold their own in the global economy more strongly. Britain's economic crisis gathers.
Isn't that nice? How people who could never get a job, by finding ways of offering services to the barter markets, become empowered.
And even among those who have jobs, some are being remunerated in kind by their employers because they simply don't have the cash to pay them, as evidenced by entire boxes full of consumer items being brought to the barter markets by employees to trade for things they really need.
Think about it. If you had a big barter market in your town and your boss couldn't pay you with cash and he offered just some product which you could go take to the barter market, solves your problem, doesn't it?
But it may be in places like this that we should be looking for a glimmer of hope for Argentina, rather than to the banks and the international investors. Because the barter markets reflect the country's tradition of fighting back against adversity. And if the economy is to stage a comeback, it's more likely to start from the energy of ordinary people rather than from globalization, which has so far brought them nothing but misery. And as this is the only part of the economy that's actually growing, the way things are heading, Argentina looks like becoming one big barter club.
Think about that. Nothing else is working except time banking. So Argentina is becoming one big barter club, and
in a
finally Greece is doing it too.
Hundreds.
We say that time is money, but for a country where cash is now in short supply, time has taken on a whole different value.
In the time bank, we exchange voluntary services. Sometimes I give painting lessons for free, but I take yoga for free also. Somebody else is teaching yoga.
The time bank's just one of a growing number of service swapping alternatives that are providing people in Greece another way to cope with the tough economic conditions. Services can include...
Actually, wait, it's the only way to cope with the tough economic conditions.
Anything from language classes to babysitting or home-cooked meals.
It's huge. It's huge. Everything we do without money, like looking after people or making things by ourselves.
For a country in crisis, building social unity can prove extremely hard. But the barter networks have been a great way of bringing together large groups of people. A popular slogan here in Greece now is "No one's alone in the crisis." Organisations are arranging swap shops to exchange clothes. One town in Greece has even started its own barter currency.
We still have the memory of agricultural society in Greece, where people used to do things together, like they would do the olive trees of my family this week, and then next week we'll do the olive trees of your family, and then the next week of the other neighbor. So they would exchange services, and they like that.
Nikki gives me and her friend Alexandra, who's also a member of the Time Bank, an art lesson. It's one of the free services she provides. And in exchange, Alexandra helps out with the gardening, and so the time is repaid.
It's an amazing way of receiving, finally, by...
They shouldn't say free if it's repaid, right?
Giving to the others.
As many Greeks struggle with wage cuts, tax increases, and with unemployment in the country now cripplingly high, there's been huge interest in the time banks and barter networks. This place is an Aladdin's cave of arts and materials, and it's no wonder really that this idea of swapping goods and services has proven so popular. It's building solidarity at a time when the economic situation is extremely uncertain. Whilst these barter networks won't solve Greece's financial problems, they do...
Well, they could if everybody belonged.
...do provide a massive amount of support for the participants.
It's not a response...
Okay, just a massive amount of support.
...to the economic crisis in the sense that it's going to overturn the government, but it's giving support and comfort to those who would like to overturn the terrible economic policies that are being imposed by the Troika. It's giving people support to feel that they can do something.
With the tough economic times leaving many Greeks feeling worthless, there is real value in projects like the Time Bank. And with the Greek government drowning in debt, these creative solutions are offering not only support, but encouragement to the people here, which at a time of deep recession are proving priceless commodities. Sarah Firth, RT, Athens.
So there's the good news, that when things get really, really bad, people have an easy alternative to set up an electronic barter system. And it works best if you also use paper poker chips, because that's really cheap and, doesn't take much manpower. So, finally, yeah, these barter fairs work fine for a bunch of desperate people. But to have to organize millions of people into a new kind of a money system, an alternate system, is a lot of work, when it could be far easier done by governments paying their employees with small denomination government bonds, the Argentine solution that those provinces used, as well as the barter Creditos. No, nothing wrong with people having interest-free credit and governments having interest-free credits too, except that it happens faster if we can organize our unions into demanding to be paid with small denomination government paper. We see small denomination people paper works fine. Believe me, small denomination government paper works too. YouTube, Argentine solution, actually silver bullet video solution to the Mayan prophecy coming up. The world can be fixed before the Mayan prophecy happens for the good. And that's a bet I got 1,000,000 to 1 odds out of a British bookie about. Another story. So that's the good news on how we stand right now. Do we have to wait until we're broke and desperate and helpless and suffering before we get organized into our own Let's lifeboat? Get organized right now before the crash. And like the lady said, if the crash hits, well, you're a little bit more insulated if you got your things set up to go already. John the Engineer Turmel, the Let's Banking Systems Engineer Turmel, saying, set it up because your life's at stake.